Hi everyone, welcome back. We are doing the chapter, A Village Cricket Match. You remember this match? A very humorous, funny match happening in England, played by all the villagers. Do you remember the two teams, the English team and the Scottish team? Now we saw that Sexton had got out. How did he get out? Boone caught him. That was very funny, the most humorous part of the chapter. The comparison of the ball falling on the stomach. I hope you remember all that. Yes? Now, what had happened? The ball had gone up, isn't it? And it was slowly coming down. We had stopped at that. Let's see what happens now. What is the situation right now? The scores are level and there is 1 wicket left. So, what is going to happen now? Let's find out in the part 2 of the chapter. Okay? In the meanwhile, when the ball was up, things were happening below. Where below? On the cricket ground, on the terrestrial sphere. Indeed. Where? Terrestrial sphere. What is terrestrial? It's the earthly. That means on the earth. What was happening on the earth when the ball was up? The situation was rapidly becoming what the French called mouvement. So at the earth at that point, what was the situation? A French word indicating a very dramatic incident. Everything that was happening here was dramatic, right? So when the ball was up on the earth was happening mouvement, something very dramatic. Okay, it's a French word. In the first place, the blacksmith forgot his sprained ankle. Now Blacksmith, who was batting, had a sprained ankle. Do you remember? He was limping and coming, isn't it? He also had a friend with him, the baker, who would run for him. But he had forgotten that his leg was sprained and set out at a capital rate for the other end. So he ran to get the run, roaring in a great voice as he went, "Come on, Joe, let's take a run." He forgot about his pain completely. The baker, who was the baker? Who was running for him, right? Who was running on the behalf of the invalid. That means that he will only bat and there will be a runner. Who was the baker? So who started running? The baker started running and even he started running. Joe started running, also set out, and he also roared, "Come on, Joe. Come on, Bill. Come on, Joe. Come on, Baker." Now imagine the scene right now. All three of them are running. Okay, how are they running? How has the author explained us how they are running? And side by side, like a pair of high stepping hackneys. Who are hackneys? Hackneys are horses. It looked like there are horses running. All three of them running at the same time. The pair cantered along. What is cantered? Galloped along. It looked like there are 3 horses running for the same thing. From the other end, Joe set out on his mission and he rode, "Come on, Bill." From there, what did Joe say? "Come on, Bill." From here, what did Bill say? "Come on, Joe." And the baker started running with Joe. So all 3 came on. Now imagine what would have happened. And everything would have been all right so far as the running was concerned. As far as the running was concerned, it was okay. Had it not been for the fact that Joe very naturally ran with his head thrown back and his eyes goggling. What do you mean by goggling? Goggling is rolling, his eyes rolling at the hawk-like cricket ball. Everything would have been okay. They were all running, fine, no problem. But what was Joe doing? He was looking up to the ball and his eyes were rolling and he was looking and concentrating only at the ball on top. Okay, isn't it very funny? Aren't you finding the whole match and the whole thing very funny and humorous? Yeah, absolutely. And this in itself would have not been mattered if it had not been for the fact that Blacksmith and the baker also very naturally ran with their heads turned not only upwards but also backwards. They were looking at the fieldsmen, they were looking up and not looking in the front, okay? So that they too gazed at the ball. All of them were looking at the ball with an alarming sort of squint. What is a squint here? Eyes looking in different directions. Eyes that are looking there, it looks like they are looking here, right? Sometimes you would have seen some people have those kind of eyes where you think they are not even looking at you but they are talking to you. So those are squint eyes. And a truly terrific kink in their necks. Kink in their necks, backward turn off their necks. They were looking back, they were looking somewhere else, their heads were turned back. It was a very chaotic situation there then. Halfway down the pitch, the three met with a magnificent clang. Obviously, now you know the situation. I have explained you how they were running, right? What would happen? What else could have happened? Obviously, they all banged into each other with a clang. What is a clang? It is an expression of loud sound, as if something loud happened. Reminiscent of early happy days in the tournament ring at Ashby de la Zouch. What is that? That means a village in Leicestershire. Okay, there is a village there by this name. So at that point, when this happened, all the hopes of the villagers also went down with these three batsmen. And the hopes of the village fell with the resounding fall of the three champions. Now these three were the champions, and when they fell, what happened? Hopes of the villagers also fell, hopes of the team also fell with them, isn't it? Right. Now, but what happened to the ball? But what of the fielding side? What happened to the fielding side? Now this is the batsman side. Fielding, what was happening? Things were not so well with them too, obviously. If there was doubt and confusion among the warriors of Forbidden. Now there were a lot of doubts happening. Who's going to go where? Who's going to catch the ball? What is Forbidden? Forbidden is the village where the match was being played. This is the village where the match was being played, okay? So warriors of Forbidden means the people of those village. There was also uncertainty and disorganization among the ranks of the invaders. Now, batsman team was obviously confused. There was even more confusion happening in the fieldsman team. Okay. Their main trouble, what was their main problem? Their main trouble was the excessive concentration of their force in the neighborhood of the wicket. Now, where the wicket was, there were too many people around it. Okay, now here they have got a policy adopted which they are comparing. Policy of Napoleon. Let's see. Napoleon laid it down that it was impossible to have too many men upon a battlefield, and he used to do everything in his power to call up every available man for a battle. Now Napoleon, when he used to go for a fight or a battle, what he used to do? He used to call every available man around him to fight the battle. Now that worked when it was a battle or a fight. Will it work here? What Scottish team did was they called so many people in their team. So in the fieldsmen there were so many people. It was so confusing here. Obviously Napoleon's policy will not work in a cricket match. Okay. So Mr. Hodge, who was the captain, after a swift glance at the ascending ball and a swift glance at the disposition of his troops, disagreed profoundly with the emperor's dictum. What is dictum? Dictum is saying, it says something, correct? He had too many men, far too many. Now Mr. Hodge, he looked at the ball. Then he looked down at the fieldsmen. He was thinking, now this policy is not going to work here. He was thinking. He had too many men he had. And all except the youth in the blue silk jumper and the mighty Boone were moving towards the strategic positions underneath the ball. Now as the ball was descending down, coming down, all the players were going to catch the ball except who? The man in the blue jumper and Boone. Yes, and not one of them appeared to be aware that any of the other existed. What did they do? They all only started moving towards the ball where the ball was supposed to come, but they did not see that everyone else was coming towards them. They did not see that so many people were coming to the same position. Okay. Boone had not moved because he was more or less in the right place. Boone did not move because he knew the ball is going to come to him. He was just standing there. But then Boone was not likely to bring off the catch, especially after the episode of the last ball. So I am not going to catch. Obviously, after the last episode, you can't trust Boone, right? Will he catch the ball again? Major Hawker shouting, "Mine, mine," in a magnificently self-confident voice, was coming up from the bowler's end like a battle cruiser. How does a battle cruiser comes? Like a full charged up fighter. He's coming and he's saying, "It's my ball, I'm gonna catch it, I'm gonna catch it," and he's running and coming. Mr. Huck had obviously lost sight of the ball altogether. Mr. Huck could not see the ball at all. I hope you have the sheet which of the two teams, so you can make out who's from whose team, okay? If indeed he had ever seen it, for he was running round and round Boone and giggling foolishly. He was actually running around Boone and giggling foolishly. Very funny things happening. Do you play cricket like this? No, you don't, right? Livingstone and Southcott, the two cracks, who are the two cracks experts, were approaching competently. Even those two were coming competently. That means in competition, that who's going to come first. So imagine the scenario right now. The batsmen have banged and they have fallen down. Fieldsmen are coming all together. What's going to happen next? Either of them would catch it easily. Anyone can catch the ball easily. The ball was at such a situation that anyone can catch. Mr. Hodge had not only to choose between them, and coming to a swift decision, he yelled above the din. He yelled. What did he do? "Yours, Livingstone!" He said, "Come on, Livingstone, you can catch the ball." Southcott, a disciplined cricketer, stopped dead. With anxiety. This is not dead, but he stopped dead. He was just looking like a dead man. Then Mr. Hodge made a fatal mistake. He made a mistake. How? He remembered Livingstone's two missed sitters. Now at that point, he remembered that Mr. Livingstone had already left two catches. He just remembered at that time. And he reversed his decision and rode. Then he said, no, okay, Livingstone cannot catch it. "Yours, Bobby!" Then he said to Bobby to catch the ball. Mr. Southcott obediently started again, while Livingstone, who had not heard the second order, Livingstone had heard the first order where he asked Livingstone to catch the ball, but he did not hear that he said Bobby to catch the ball. Went straight on. He also went straight on to catch the ball. Now, Captain Hodge had restored the status quo. What is status quo? Status quo is the previous position. He said, okay, let's do the previous position only. So there was entire confusion happening here. Here, as we see, the captain, what has he done? Because the ball went up, he calculated everything related to it. The entire physics of the ball he calculated, and he figured out according to the angle, velocity, density of air, barometer reading, temperature, and had arrived to what? Yes, he arrived to a point where will the ball fall. The spot which ought to be marked in the photographs with an X. He marked an X in his mind that this is where the ball is going to fall. Was 1 yard to the northeast of Boone. He also calculated, okay, Boone is standing there. The ball is going to fall a little bit away from Boone in the northeast direction. And he proceeded to take up station here. And he was slowly going to take the station there because the ball was going to come there and he thought he can catch it. Colliding on the way with Donald. But what happened? As he was looking only up and doing all the calculations, he collided with Donald and knocking him over. This entire scene is very, very funny. Okay, so what has happened now? He has knocked over Donald. A moment later, Bobby Southcott came racing up and tripped over the recumbent Donald. Now already Donald is down, Mr. Huck is down. Who comes next? Bobby. Now Bobby also is running to catch the ball and he also falls on them. Now you can imagine one on top of the other and was shot head first into the Abraham-like bosom. What is Abraham-like bosom? First I'll tell you what is recumbent. Okay, recumbent is lying down. Recumbent means he tripped over the already lying down Ronald. And then Abraham-like bosom, which means capacious bosom. Head first into the capacious, the entire confusion happening down, he fell on that. Of Boone. Boone stepped backward under the impact and came down with his spiked boot upon the professor's toe. Now the professor, who is already hurt because Boone didn't want to fall there. He stepped back and hurt the professor's toe by mistake, which was already paining and he was already limping. Almost simultaneously, the portly. What is portly? Portly is round and fat. Now, this is the team which is not at all fit. Everyone's round and fat. All the players are fat. Do you think this is a good team? Really? No, I don't think so. The portly wicket keeper, whose movements were a positive triumph of the spirit over the body, bumped the professor from behind. So, what happened? Because he was so heavy, he bumped the professor from behind. Everyone is bumping into each other here. The learned man was thus neatly sandwiched. He was sandwiched. What is sandwich? Sandwich, you eat sandwich, right? 2 bread pieces, in between there is cucumber. So, sandwich is basically something which is on top of each other, okay? Between Tweedledum and Tweedledee. This is a comparison. It's just said that Tweedledum, Tweedledee. This is what is happening in Siley. All of them have come into a sandwich form. And the sandwich which was instantly covered into a ragout. What is ragout? Ragout is mixture of vegetables and meat, cooked stuff. Ragout is a mixture of vegetables and meat. So, here they are trying to say that everything is in a mixtured situation, mixed together, on top of each other, like a sandwich. In a ragout, okay, by Livingstone. Now, Livingstone has come in between like a ragout, like a mixture of vegetables and meat, who made up for his lack of extra weight, for he was always thought in perfect training by his extra momentum, okay. Now, here situation is like a sandwich, everyone is on one top of the other. Now, what about the ball? Who caught the ball? And all the time, Mr. Shakespeare Pollock hovered alertly upon the outskirts like a rugby scrum. He was roaming around on the outskirts. What is a rugby scrum? The half back who puts the ball into the scrum. The guy who is putting the ball into the scrum is called the rugby scrum. Okay, scrum is the abbreviation for scrimmage. What is abbreviation? Smaller form of the big word. Okay, so scrum is the abbreviation of scrimmage. A part of rugby football when the forwards of both sides form a tight mass with the ball in the middle. Okay, screaming American University cries in a piercingly high tenor. Piercingly means really sharp and tense voice. At last, what happened at last? The ball came down. Do you know what is happening now? To Mr. Hodge, it seemed a long time before the invention of Sir Isaac Newton finally triumphed. For Mr. Hodge, he thought, oh God, when will this law of Mr. Isaac Newton happen? Law of gravity, when will the ball come down? It took a long time, but it happened. And it was a striking testimony to the mathematical and ballistical skill of the professor that the ball landed with a sharp report upon the top of his head. Whose head? The ball landed on whose head? Professor's head. Okay. The ball actually landed on the professor's head, where everyone is thinking the ball will come to him. What is report? An explosive sound. Report is an exclusive big sound, like that of a gun being fired, like a thud. Okay, the ball came down and hit the professor's head. Thence it leapt up into the air a foot or so. After it hit the professor's head, it went up, cannoned onto Boone's head. The ball then went to Boone's head. Can you believe it? And then trickled slowly down the colossal expanse of the wicket keeper's back. First, it hit professor's head, it hit Boone's head, then it went down the wicket keeper's pants, bouncing slightly as it reached the massive lower portions. It was coming down, down, down. What next? What do you think happened next? It was only a foot from the ground when Mr. Shakespeare Pollock sprang into the vortex. Vortex is a mass of water or air that spins round and round so fast that it pulls the objects onto its centers. With a last ear-splitting howl of victory, and grabbed it off the seat of the wicket keeper's trousers. So as soon as it was coming down to wicket keeper's trousers, he ran and he caught the ball, and already he could hear the shouts of amazement. The match was a tie. So he was out. Again, one more wicket was done. The scores were equal. The match was a tie. Yes, finally. And hardly anyone on the field knew it except Mr. Hodge, the youth in the blue jumper. Hardly anyone knew it because they were already here and there. Who all knew? Only Mr. Hodge, the youth in the blue jumper, and Mr. Pullock himself, because obviously he caught it. For the two batsmen and the runner, undaunted to the last, had picked themselves up and were bent on completing the single that was to give Forbidden the crown of victory. What were the batsmen doing? They were still going to get the run because they thought they will get the victory, but they were already out. The wicket was already taken. Unfortunately, dazed with their falls, with excitement and with the noise, they all three ran for the same wicket. Simultaneously realized their error. When they reached the same wicket, all three of them, they realized we did something wrong, right? And all three turned and ran for each other. They were all so puzzled. The blacksmith, ankle and all, in the center, leading by a yard, so that they looked like pictures of the Russian troika. What is a troika? Troika is this. What does troika means? It is a Russian vehicle drawn by 3 horses. So at that time, it was looking like a troika, like 3 men running towards the same direction, 3 horses going towards the same direction. But their effort was in vain, obviously, because already the ball has been caught. For Mr. Pullock had grabbed the ball and the match was already a tie, so it was a effort in vain. And both the teams spent the evening at the 3 horseshoes, and Mr. Huck made a speech in Italian about the glories of England. Now the glories of England is English. So the speech was made in Italian. That's another humorous event in the story. And afterwards fell asleep in a corner. Just after he did the speech, he was so tired that he fell asleep in a corner. And Donald got home to Royal Avenue at 10 o'clock in the morning, feeling that he had not learnt very much about the English from his experience of their national game. Cricket is their national game, isn't it? So he came back and he thought that, what did I learn today about from this national game? Nothing, because they were playing with no rules at all. Everyone was just doing whatever they were doing. Okay? So you understood the story. It's a nice and humorous story. The only thing that you need to remember is the names of the players and they belong to which team. Okay, I hope you will revise that and write it down first. Now the question answers also, please do it with me. Question 9b, what does the bale in the sky battling against the chief invention mean here? It means that according to the theory of gravity, what is the theory of gravity? The ball had to crash down immediately, right? Gravity means whatever goes up comes down. According to that, the ball should come immediately, but it defied gravity. It defied gravity. It did not listen to the gravity and remained suspended in the air for quite some time before it fell down. So it was in the air for a lot of time before it came down. Question number 10. Who ran like a pair of high-stepping hackneys? Who ran like that, like a pair of high-stepping hackneys? The blacksmith, the 3 batsmen, the blacksmith and the baker ran like a pair of high-stepping hackneys. Hackneys are horses. Okay. Question number 11a. Why were the 3 batsmen running for a run? Why were they running for a run? The ball hit by the blacksmith went high up in the air and fell back quite slowly. Therefore, the batsman, the blacksmith, the baker, who was his substitute runner, and Joe began running for getting a run. They were going to get a run because they hit the ball and the ball went quite high. Question 11b. How were they running? How were they running? All the 3 had their heads turned towards the bowling ball and did not notice the batsmen running from the other end. They also did not see where they were going. They were running looking up, so they did not know where they were running. Therefore, they crashed into one another and they all fell down. What fatal mistake did Hodge make? What was the mistake that Hodge made? Initially, Hodge ordered Livingstone to catch the falling ball, correct? Then he remembered Livingstone's 2 missed catches, and so he thought Livingstone is not the correct guy to hold the ball. So he reversed his decision and wrote to Bobby to catch it. That was the fatal mistake committed by him, because Livingstone had not heard the second order of Hodge and continued running, and that's why all of them crashed together. Okay, that's the mistake they made in between the match. Question number 13. How did Mr. Pollock finally catch the ball? What happened finally? The ball landed on the head of the professor, underline professor, the first player, and it leapt up into the air a foot or so. It leapt up into the air. Hit Boone's head, number 2, second player. What did he do? It hit Boone's head and trickled slowly down the wicket keeper. Third is who? Wicket keeper. So already the ball has gone to 3 people. Brought back when it was only a foot from the ground. Who caught it? Mr. Pollock sprang with a loud roar and grabbed it off the seat of the wicket keeper's trousers. What did he do? He caught the ball just before it hit the ground. So all these question answers are in the app. When you open the app, write the answer in your notebook and underline. So in this answer, you have to underline professor, wicket keeper, Boone, and who caught the ball? Mr. Pollock. Right? I hope you understand this. Question 14a. The writer says that Mr. Hodge disagreed with Napoleon's dictum. Yes, we did disagree. What was Napoleon's dictum? What was it that Napoleon did every time he went into the battle? Napoleon laid a dictum. Dictum is saying, okay, that it was impossible to have too many men upon a battlefield, but used to do everything in his power to call up every available man for a battle. Moving on to the next, 14, the B answer. How did Mr. Hodge disagree with the dictum? How did Mr. Hodge disagree? Okay. When Mr. Hodge saw his fielders getting ready to catch the descending ball, he disagreed with the dictum. He was looking up at the ball like that, and when the ball was coming down and all the fieldsmen were running towards the ball, he thought to himself that it was bad to have too many players on the field. Too much of confusion was happening then. Now question 15, who won the match? Did anyone win the match? Neither of the team won the match. It ended up in a tie, a humorous, funny tie. So did you enjoy the chapter? I hope you did. I enjoyed it a lot reading it to you. It is a really funny chat. And you know who my favorite character is? Boone. He's very funny, isn't it? So I'm going to read the summary once to use for you to understand it better. This is a ball-by-ball account of a cricket match played in Forbendon, an English village, between English and Scottish players. None of the players is professionally trained. They are all not trained. They are just village people. Many rules of the game are changed. Many rules are changed in order to accommodate the players. The rules keep changing in order to accommodate the players. There is a lot of excitement on the ground with fielders crowding around the batsmen. So when is the excitement? Then the fielders are crowding the batsmen. All of them are near the batsmen, and the batsmen themselves were very tensed. The strong sexton hits a ball which is caught unwittingly by the mighty Mr. Boone in the process of protecting his stomach. He was actually protecting his stomach, but he caught the ball. Then it is the turn of the lame blacksmith to hit the ball, and he hits it very, very high. What does the blacksmith do? Hits the ball very high. Though he had a runner, the baker, actually he had got a runner because he was limping and he had got hurt in his foot, you remember? Appointed to run on his behalf of him, he forgets about his limp in the excitement and starts running very fast, with the baker too beside him. So there are 3 batsmen running at the same time. the opposite batsman too starts running and all the 3 eyes fixed on the ball. What do they do? Collide and fall down. 2 fielders, both of them commanded to catch the ball, run together. Remember, he instructed both the players, yes, and collide with another fielder, and they also fall down. So the batsmen fall down, the fieldsmen fall down. So a fourth one, the fourth player picks up the ball. The batsman in their turn gets up and all the 3 start running towards the same wicket, realizing their mistake. What happened to the batsmen? All of them get up and run to the same wicket, and then they realize their mistake, turn back again together towards the other wicket, by which time it is very late. By which time it was very late, the ball was already caught. The ball also was caught in a very disastrous manner, and the match finally was a tie. None of them won the match. Yes, with this the match is over, the cricket match is over, and our lesson is also over. So I hope you understand the lesson. Question answers are all given to you. I have explained all the questions with the answers. Everything is available in our beautiful app. Okay, anything else you need to know, please let us know. There are a lot of quizzes to be done, so please do them and come out with flying colors in your exams. Good luck, good wishes, signing out, Kashish Chugh.